Episode 5 of the Bulldozer Fantasy Football Podcast. Apologize for the day or so delay on the episode. The draft was big. I was working through it. But what a draft it was. Not as many trades as I was expecting with players, but definitely a lot of trades with like teams moving up and down. So that was kind of exciting. We did have a big shakeup with Swift getting traded by the Lions. I was not expected for sure, as well as what they did with their pick. But we'll get into all that draft stuff. I'm probably going to reverse the order a little bit. Normally I end with the mailbag. I'm probably going to start with it this time, just so that way we can dive into the draft stuff. And then I'm also going to probably just combine the news and notes with the draft stuff, just because there's a lot of draft stuff to get into. I want to go through each team and kind of the impacts of each player, because even an offensive lineman being drafted affects the quarterback, the running back, and the offense, as much as maybe it's a blocking tight end over a receiving tight end, and you guys want to know the differences probably before you're going into your rookie drafts. So there's definitely a lot to jump into with all the picks and whatnot. So it's exciting. I think I'm going to probably break it up into a few episodes just to kind of make sure that I'm going through. But I am probably going to drop a couple more episodes this week than normal, just because the draft happened and I want to get all that analysis out before your rookie drafts start up. So we'll start with the NFC this round, and then we'll definitely go into the AFC afterwards, but we'll probably break it down by division and go team by team. That way we're not missing anybody or anything, and we can go over all your players and you can feel comfortable with your picks going into your draft. So and then afterwards I think I'll probably do like an overall super flex rankings for you guys, just so that way you can kind of see what my thought process is on these players and where I kind of have them slotted in on over each other, or after each other. But yeah, there is a couple bits of news that I definitely want to get into. Maybe before, because they were happening earlier in the week, and I definitely don't want to brush over them. But Lamar Jackson got his deal. That's pretty exciting for all you Lamar owners. I know I have a Lamar share. Everything's back to normal. Everything is okay. If you bought Lamar during the doubt, good on you, because he's an MVP. He's an amazing fantasy player. He's an amazing quarterback. He's everything for your team, and you know that if you've ever started him in a league, or had the opportunity to play him. So anyways, we'll jump into also the next bit of news. Aaron Rodgers is traded. We were expecting it. We were waiting for it, and so now it's done, and we don't have to worry about it potentially not happening, or the Jets moving on, or the Packers falling through, or whatever. But Rodgers is going to be thrown to Garrett Wilson. That's freaking exciting. He's got Lazard there. Breece Hall is going to benefit for sure, because now defenses have to actually worry about a true quarterback. And Zach Wilson's going to make his life hell in practice every day. So anyways, mail time. First question. Let's go ahead and pull these up here. Hold on. All right. So the first question is from Jake. As usual, the questions every week. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot. So, draft should have happened for the most part now. Who was your biggest riser and faller because of their landing spot? I'll probably say it's pretty obvious. I mean, I for one was a Will Levis hater to begin with. So I think, maybe my side of things is a little more obvious, but quite honestly, Will Levis, potentially being a top 5 pick and falling out of the first round to the Titans, where they have Tannehill and they've shown that they don't, even if they make an investment, they're not going to be willing to put you as a starter if you're not good enough. And they've already stated that he's even behind Malik Willis. So he was rumored to be possibly taken 1 overall leading up to the draft. Slips to the second round. I personally was never a fan of him. He takes too many hits in the pocket. He has horrible pocket awareness. He's a one-read kind of guy, in my opinion. He had horrible talent around him, and everyone was saying he was mobile, but I really didn't see it. Took a lot of hits. Was just kind of, I think he had a hard time processing maybe or something. He didn't get to start at his first college, so he had to transfer to Kentucky, which is never a good sign if you're a quarterback, in my opinion. The only time that's worked out is with Jalen Hurts, and that's an outlier for sure. So I was starting to, doubt my analysis of him leading up to the draft because everyone was like still hyping him up and on him. But luckily the NFL backed me up a little bit and shot him down because yeah, he's not good. I still have him behind Hendon Hooker, and I don't believe he's going to be anything more than a backup quarterback. So, yeah, that's good. Next question is from IPWNOO7. I don't know how to say that. It's probably I pawn you. Yeah. Anyways, with Richardson having gotten such a great landing spot, does he contend for the 101 in Superflex? If not, is he a clear 102 now? Spicy question for sure. I think I'm taking Bijan firmly with the 101. I absolutely just, with the landing spot in Atlanta, they're going to run the ball. They're a run dominant offense, and they're going to be that way until they find a quarterback that changes that, and it doesn't look like they're getting one anytime soon. So, I mean, don't get cute now. Remember when everyone was doubting AJ Brown because of his landing spot? Like, if you don't like this landing spot, you should. Don't stress, because just because Atlanta has a bad offense, I mean, we saw what that meant for Najee in his rookie year. He had a horrible offense with a bad quarterback, and now they're on the upswing, and he's looking a whole lot different now. So Bijan is absolutely just fine. Take him with the 101. Don't get cute. Don't get too sweet with it, and unless if you absolutely need quarterback, but then trade back, even if it's because there's 3 other quarterbacks. Just trade back. So anyways, let's get back to the question, because that was a little off topic. But yeah, no, I'm not taking Richardson over Bijan. Now, Richardson as the 102, I don't think it's necessarily clear. I do think, if you're at the 102 to the 104, you're in a good position. You're pretty happy right now because there's 3 quarterbacks that all went in a row. Between, not in a row, but you had Bryce Young go 1, CJ Stroud go 2, and then Richardson go 4. So the NFL is kind of at least giving you somewhat of a layout of how they feel about these quarterbacks and their potential. But what I would do is it's got to be team dependent. I'm not taking him necessarily automatically at the 102. I do like Richardson, obviously. I am a sucker for rushing quarterbacks. But, my rankings still have Stroud. Quarterback rankings for the rookies have Stroud 1, Young 2, and Richardson still 3. Just because, and this is where it's team dependent, like I said, because, if you don't need a quarterback, say you've got 2 starting quarterbacks and you want to shoot for the moon, obviously take Richardson. Now, if you've got the need for a quarterback, I don't know if I'm taking the moonshot because you've got a need for a quarterback, and Richardson has definitely the lowest floor. Trey Lance is written all over him. Hell, even Josh Allen wasn't looked at as highly after his rookie season. He was still a question mark at least. People were saying, "Oh, he's not accurate enough. He's just a rushing quarterback." And they said that about Fields. They said that about Hurts. Like, it's going to be a minute before Richardson really develops. I think he's definitely got some things to figure out. And so, if you need a quarterback to start, I'm taking Stroud 1, then Young 2, and then probably Richardson 3 if you absolutely need a quarterback to start. Now, again, moonshot is Richardson, and that's why I like Young, or I like Stroud 1, because he's kind of a blend of, Young's safe upside and Richardson's ceiling. He's kind of a little bit of a blend of that. We saw that in the Georgia game with him. He can run. So at the 102 right now, I'm still taking Stroud. 103, I'm still taking Young, and 104, I'm taking Richardson, in that order probably. I know the draft hype is awesome and everyone's getting excited over things, but these guys have been touted for so long as the top 2 quarterbacks. It's, they were drafted before Richardson for a reason. And so I wouldn't necessarily get too cute with your 102 pick either, because you're probably picking 102 for a reason, and you probably need a guy to go in there and be safe, and then you can build around him. It's just like an NFL roster. You should be building around, safe players at that point, because you're obviously not doing so hot. Now, if you've traded for that pick, it might be a different story, and that's where it leads into, okay, go ahead and take Richardson. But that's probably only if you have two other starting quarterbacks and you're safe and you want to, or three, and you want to take like the moonshot or the value, or the exciting pick. But I think right now people have got to understand you want to be safe in these drafts, and Richardson definitely has bust potential on him, because we've seen it with Trey Lance. Even though he was the third pick overall, he right now is looking at a backup spot right now behind Brock Purdy, who is drafted last. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's exciting. Next question is from Mark R. I appreciate it. Questions each week. Thank you for your support. If you had your choice, when would your dynasty rookie drafts happen? Before the draft, immediately after? I think all of the options are fun, but unfortunately I've never been able to convince people to do it before the rookie draft. So I am I'm definitely in the boat of maybe wanting to do the thing where the draft happens before, or you do the rookie draft before the NFL draft, just to kind of like see what happens with your players. But let me throw this out there, because I think about the person right now in all of those leagues, because there are leagues out there right now that people drafted before the NFL draft. Think about all the people who needed a quarterback and drafted Will Levis. And they're probably hating it right now. And they might be, their night was ruined. They're probably thinking about leaving. The commission's dealing with a catastrophe almost on his hands. So I would personally not do the rookie draft anymore before the NFL draft, just because it does. But I would do it shortly after. I think I would do a week after slow draft, a week or two after with a slow draft is the right move, because it allows people to kind of scout their players as they pick them, make trades as it goes, allows for more activity on your own team level, because now people who don't necessarily look at their team consistently are now looking at their team for the draft, and they're going, oh wow, holy cow, I need this, I should make a trade, and they're a lot more active because things are going on, so that's good. But all right, let's get into the draft, because I'm excited for this. I want to run down the NFC. We'll start with the North. We'll go to the South. Then we'll do the East, and then we'll do the West if we've got time. I'm thinking we'll probably break this one up into two, maybe, because we're even already at about halfway through the normal amount of time. But all right, so the draft rundown. It was. It's crazy each year, but I think this is my favorite football for time event besides our own fantasy drafts, because it's just obviously when football's happening, that's awesome, but the draft is just so freaking exciting. You get a bunch of people, their dreams are coming true all at once, and teams are changing the future for themselves, so it's pretty cool. I'll definitely hop into the Packers first with the NFC North. We've got Rodgers, is gone. We got Love, obviously, at quarterback now. This has been a thing that we've expected to happen all offseason, so that's not a surprise. So I'm not going to dive into it too much, but I think their rebuild is going nice. They've got the compensatory second round that could turn into a first-round pick next year, and it is a real score for them. I know a lot of fans wanted to have them take a wide receiver with their first pick, but personally, I think they did as usual. Going with Van Ness, it just shows that they're going to be leaning on Dillon and Jones and making sure that they're playing, a defensive-minded game with not asking Love to do too much, which kind of shows that their offense might take a step back in overall fantasy points, which doesn't get me too excited for Love this season from a fantasy perspective. And it also, Dillon and Jones right back at, their usual spots. Solid. Dillon's a solid running back 3 flex play, and Jones is a solid running back 1 with, running back 2 on most teams now, because, he's a little older. But I don't think they had too many offensive picks. It looks like Musgrave and Kraft, they picked 2 tight ends. We'll see which one turns out to be more of a blocking tight end, or if they both turn out to be a blocking tight end, because they obviously want to start running the ball a little bit more, it looks like, and focusing not so much on passing. But they did take a second-round wide receiver with the second round pick, 19th overall pick in the second round, Jaden Reed, Michigan State. He could be a late-round rookie steal, in my opinion. Offense needs a weapon to replace the departing combination of Tanya and Lazard. Cobb is probably getting out of there, and Watson and Dobbs can't do it all by themselves. Dobbs was a nice surprise and a late-round pick, but Reed is a little bit more of a draft capital pick, so we could see Reed overtake Dobbs and be the 2 in this offense. Who knows what happens? And the Packers have a history of developing second-round receivers pretty well, so I wouldn't be surprised if Dobbs takes a step back a little bit and Reed comes in here and starts performing a little bit and maybe surprising some people. So, and he's not like a big name, so I don't expect a lot of people in your home leagues to be grabbing him. You could probably grab him late in the second, early in the third, maybe even, and you could see what you have, stick him on the taxi squad, even if you've got a good roster. But who knows? And then, Wicks doesn't really have the speed to produce. That was the other receiver that they picked late in the draft. In my opinion, he's just not he's not gonna be able to create separation with a 4.6 240. But he could be a replacement blocking wide receiver for Lazard. Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll move on to the Lions. The shakeup of the draft. Obviously, they traded out of the 6 to the 12, and then they selected Jahmyr Gibbs. So people walked out of the first round of the draft thinking the Lions had Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and DeAndre Swift. And then on the third night of the draft, the last night, they decided to trade Swift to the Eagles. So in total, they've passed up on Bijan at 6. He was selected 2 picks later at 8, and then decided to trade back, or they decided to trade back instead of picking Bijan, and they picked Gibbs at 12. And it kind of screamed like, oh, we thought maybe he would be here still. I don't know. They didn't seem like they were worried. They seemed very excited in the war room, but to be honest, like I was concerned walking out of night 1. I was like, oh my gosh, like that is the worst spot possible for Jahmyr Gibbs. And then the Swift trade happened, and it makes me kind of go, okay, Gibbs is maybe now a little bit better. In a PPR machine, he could be an absolute nightmare because he's going to catch a lot of passes probably. Goff is going to dump it off. Like, it is exciting. I do see the potential for him to absolutely boom. But, Swift to the Eagles for a 4th rounder, essentially, and a swap of 7th round picks. Not exciting for Swift. And then on day 3... that's not really when you want to get traded. You kind of look like you don't matter anymore. We'll see what the Eagles do. I think the Eagles are probably going to feature him or split him up with Kenneth Gainwell. But anyways, Swift gets a shot at revitalizing his career. The Lions replace Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift with Gibbs and Montgomery, which I'm still puzzled about the selection. I think it makes me definitely solidify Gibbs as my number 2 back because he is got the draft capital now. And then he'll definitely be in a pass-catching role for sure. And then Montgomery will probably have the goal line work, which is unfortunate. But, if you're catching a lot of passes each game, it doesn't really matter if you're in a PPR league. So their tight end selection of Sam Laporta, my sleeper tight end, was definitely a Dan Campbell guy, in my opinion. It makes me feel like Sam Laporta will probably move up a little bit, and I'm starting to kind of learn that there's so many tight ends in this draft that you should honestly just wait. Pick all the other guys, wait, punt tight end. Rookie tight ends do not perform to your expectations, I promise. Like, I had Kyle Pitts, and I'm still down on him, even though he had a 1,000-yard receiving tight end year his rookie season. So, As much as I'm excited about Sam Laporta, only grab him if he falls, and that's like in the late second is what I'm kind of expecting. But anyways, they also took Hendon Hooker, which is kind of exciting. Goff can run this thing for another year or two, and then hopefully Hooker can have, a little slow growth in the NFL starting for the Lions down the road. But it wasn't a terribly high selection, but he's got a high ceiling if he can recover from the ACL injury. He performed well. He had good production. He's mobile. He's got good pocket awareness. I have him over Levis for a while now. I have, and put him on the taxi squad and just wait it out, and maybe you've got an extra quarterback down the line. Who knows? So we'll move on to the Bears. They truly didn't do much of note for fantasy in the draft. They had a lot of holes on defense and other areas, but they did take an offensive tackle with their first selection, which is good for Fields. Keeps him upright, hopefully. They definitely needed more offensive line help after last season. Fields took a lot of hits, had to move around a lot, so hopefully they can kind of protect him a little bit, get him some time so he can throw to his new weapon in DJ Moore. This whole offseason has kind of been a let's build around Fields, which is nice. Makes me kind of feel solidified in his growth going forward. But they also took Roschon Johnson, which now he doesn't have the toughest of competition. Imagine now you went from playing with Bijan Robinson to playing with Khalil Herbert and Deonta Foreman. So you should probably do just fine with that competition if you're at all worthy of the hype that's been built around you this offseason. Roschon Johnson is one of my sleepers right now because everyone's still probably hyped on Khalil Herbert and they expect him to maybe be, but I think he's more of a change of pace back, and they'll be using Deonta Foreman, and if they see anything out of Roschon Johnson, they'll be replacing Deonta Foreman with Roschon Johnson probably before it's not too late. So go ahead and grab them, late second. Again, like these late second round picks are going to be just all about team build and what you need, but you can never hurt to have some depth at running back and some potential studs if he does get the full-time workload. So anyways, we'll move on. We'll go ahead and go to the Vikings. The addition of Jordan Addison seems like he is the replacement for Adam Thielen. A nice compliment to Jefferson for sure. We don't know if Addison has the nose for the end zone like Thielen did, but it should be a good fantasy option in season one and moving forward because of that high-powered offense. He's a polished route runner. He will be the number 2 for sure over KJ Osborne. I don't expect him to be really a nuisance at all. For Addison to get some time, Addison just has the ability to create separation like no other, and so I do expect him to be on the opposite side of Jefferson, and the defense is going to be focusing on Jefferson so much, so you'll have Addison pretty wide open with Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball, and you've obviously got Hawkinson there, so the whole offense is going to be benefiting from this, I think. And then we'll see. So, other than that, the only other fantasy relevant selection was, in my opinion, is Dwayne McBride. If you liked him, if you thought he was going to be anything, if Dalvin Cook gets traded or released, like the rumors said, maybe he pops up. But right now, he's a 7th round pick, so maybe he doesn't even make the roster. So, those 4th round selections are always, or maybe undrafted in your rookie drafts if so. So maybe grab him late. But all right, We'll move on to the NFC South. We've got a couple of crazy things going on in the NFC South with the Panthers to start. Bryce Young was the number 1 pick and somewhat of an offense in place for him to work with, I guess. You've got Thielen, Terrace Marshall. They signed Miles Sanders, DJ Chark. They do leave a little something to be desired, but it's something to start with. At least it's not, it's some vets for the rookie to play with. On a run-first offense, it's not necessarily the most exciting, and that's why I do have him behind Stroud, I think. I mean, talent-wise, Stroud and him are so close that it was, picking hairs. I think they're both capable of performing well in the NFL, so I think the Panthers' situation is kind of just keeping me with Young at 2. Just because it is, until they get something, they traded a lot of capital away to move from 9 to 1, and I don't expect them to be able to necessarily build around Young as quickly as the Texans will be able to build around Stroud. So, they did select another wide receiver, though, with that, Jonathan Mingo. So maybe Young gets to grow with him, and it's a second-round selection, so who knows. But Young isn't the high upside selection, but he's exciting still. So I would be taking him at the 103 and personally just slotting him in at your quarterback 2 spot to day 1. And who knows what he grows into. He's got the ability to throw the ball into tight windows, and as long as he's protected and he can avoid big hits, he'll be fine. So he'll have a long career with the Panthers, and the Panthers got a franchise quarterback, which they haven't had since Cam Newton, so that's exciting for them too. The Buccaneers, nothing offensively of note. We went ahead and took a offensive guard or tackle with our first pick or second selection, and the guy with the gap teeth from the Senior Bowl. But there's still plenty of free agents of note left at the running back position. So Rachaad White, aside from him looking like a winner right now, keep an eye out there. The Bucs were linked to Zeke early when he was cut. Who knows what happens? But for right now, I would probably trade Rachaad White. Aside from that, most of our selections were defensively minded, and that kind of tracks with what the Bucs are going to be doing. We're going to be running the ball, not going to be throwing the ball as much, which kind of maybe buffers or pushes, Evans and Godwin down. But it looks like we'll be a defensive-minded team, and Mayfield won't be much more than a bye-week fill-in probably. So, nothing. I wouldn't be too excited for the Bucs offense this season, especially after their draft kind of indicated that they're definitely not, focused on it. So, the Saints. Another defensively driven draft for sure. With the addition of Carr over the offseason, they didn't focus too much on offense, but I do like Kendre Miller getting drafted in the 3rd, which is interesting since you've got Kamara suspended. Jamal Williams is going to need, a backup running mate, and it's an interesting role. It'll feature him. He'll be able to show what he's got for the first 6 games without Kamara being on the field. So, you'll be at least able to watch them perform at the NFL level, and then if they like what they have, they might move on from Kamara pretty quickly. So the Falcons, the big fantasy running back name of the offseason, Bijan Robinson, lands with the team, and that'll certainly be a good feature spot for him. I think he's going to be given the ball. They want to run the ball at least 30 times a game. Now, this definitely kills Tyler Allgeier's fantasy role, unfortunately, but Bijan definitely had to land somewhere. And this offense will run a lot a game. So maybe Allgeier even gets, 10 to 12 touches a game still. But for right now, you got to look at it as London and Pitts kind of take a step back, unfortunately, because the offense will run through Bijan, and then you've got no quarterback. So until the Falcons get a quarterback of note, this offense is going to be not as high performing as it could be. Think about a couple of other situations. I personally could maybe think about the Giants when they had Saquon and Odell, and they were trying to, and Eli was ending his career, and they were trying to figure it out, and then they drafted Danny Dimes, and so they're going to need a quarterback, and maybe they get one next offseason. But for right now, it looks like they're going to run with Desmond Ridder, which this only helps him, obviously, because teams aren't going to be as focused on him because now you got someone else who's explosive in the backfield. But once they do get a quarterback, this team's going to be absolutely terrifying, probably, assuming all of these pieces are still in place and they do it quickly. But for right now, so Allgeier last season had 1,100 yards total alongside Patterson, who had 800 yards himself. So Robinson should be able to probably absorb that workload and produce maybe even more. Thinking of some of the best rookie running back seasons, you've got Zeke in 2016, Barkley in 2018. So he could probably be up there with that. Maybe he gets 1,000 club based on how much workload he has. Think Najee in his first season too. So we'll see what happens. We're gonna probably go ahead and cut it off there, as I'm just running through these draft results. I realize I want to give you just a full analysis, and I don't want this show to go really more than 30 minutes. And I'll be pumping out an extra video or two this week, potentially just because of this. But it's definitely exciting changes all across the NFL. Definitely make some trades while you've got your rookie drafts coming up. Capitalize on this rookie hype. Realize that these veterans are still going to produce more for you, and people are so enamored with these new guys that they're willing to just kind of ignore the fact that these other guys have produced. But the NFL doesn't ignore that. The fantasy football world doesn't ignore that, so kind of take advantage of that. Now is the time to sell your rookie picks, capitalize on that, and take advantage of the people who are getting sucked up into the hype around some of these players, and make sure that you just keep yourself level-headed when you're going about it with your picks, because you don't want to get too enamored with a guy. You want to, what I like to do is, and I'll kind of give you a just, because I've got a rookie draft coming up, and I'm even telling myself right now, because I'm trying to make some trades, move up, move down, maybe. But then I had to kind of calm myself down a little bit and realize, like, okay, just take a deep breath, let the draft come to you. It's going to be a slow draft, okay? And then when you're on the clock, that's when maybe you should move. Don't move before necessarily, unless if it's moving back. Don't move up before we're in the draft, because you don't know what's going to happen, So I was potentially going to move from the 104 to the 102. I was potentially going to move from the 104 to the 101. If I could get it for the right price, but both those teams obviously want a lot, and rightfully so. Their picks are worth a lot, but realize if you're in that 102 to 104 range, you don't have to worry. If you're in that 105 to 107 range, you should see who's falling in your draft, and then if your guy gets taken, then you can still make a maneuver afterwards and pivot then. But take a deep breath, ask yourself, what does my team need? What is the value? What would the pick look like if I did take this guy? What would my team look like if I took this guy? Does the value drop immediately if I take this guy? So you have a lot of questions to ask yourself. Don't panic. You've got time. There's plenty of time. We've got a long off season. So that's probably my best advice to you. And definitely trade your rookie picks for proven players right now, if you can. So let me know what you got going on your rookie drafts. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll definitely be filling in this week with a couple of episodes, so you can ask, and I'll maybe get it to you before you have to wait a full week, and we'll see what goes on. But I've got my rookie draft coming up this week, and it's exciting, and I'll let you guys know the results as they come out. It's going to be a slow draft, so it'll be exciting to kind of go through it with you guys. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.